Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Webinar Wednesday. It's remarkable how we seem to be moving from one Wednesday to the other. Time is really moving really, really fast. Before we proceed, I just want to check that you can see and hear me properly. If you're having any issues, don't forget to put in a comment in the comment section. And also introduce yourself. Let us know who you are and who's on board. It's always nice to know. Anyways, so as promised, today we're going to be talking about MVC, the Model View Controller Framework for developing applications. Now, you might have come across this term, Model View Controller, but even if you didn't, it's something that's really critically important for you to know as a developer, especially those of you that plan to get into full stack web application development. A few weeks ago, we spoke about full stack development. So when you're a serious developer, you have to know MVC. You have to know what it is and what's its benefit, and also how to best implement it into your systems. MVC is basically a framework for creating web and to an extent mobile apps. So today I'm going to explain to you exactly what MVC is and what its benefits are. Exactly how you're going to implement it in your systems, you don't have to worry too much about that, because in the entire way that we teach you software development at IT Varsity, we have it integrated, fully integrated. So you are already learning MVC, except that you didn't know you were learning MVC. Well, now you're going to know why we do things the way we do. So let's start with MVC first of all. Now, MVC is, as I mentioned, it's a type of framework. It's a type of framework, and it stands for Model View Controller. Now, Model View Controller framework is basically a framework where you separate the three major parts of your application. And the reason you separate it, let me explain that by means of a takeaway that you might go to. Let's say you go to a chicken joint, maybe you go to a KFC and you place an order. Now, what do? Do you go into the kitchen and place the order? No, you don't. You go to the front desk. You look at the menu, you speak to the friendly person at the counter, you place your order. What does she do? The next thing she does is she takes your order and she submits it to the kitchen. In the old days, she would have probably taken it down on a piece of paper and stuck that piece of paper on a special place where the chefs can see it. But now it's all digital. She takes down your order on her till, and that order is transferred to a screen in the kitchen where the chef picks it up. So now the order is sitting with the chef. What's the next thing? The next thing is the chef takes that order and decides what ingredients are going to be needed to make your order. All right. So you've ordered a whole chicken, for example, still continuing the KFC example. So what does the chef do? The chef needs the chicken. So where does he go? He goes to the freezer. He opens the freezer, he pulls out a frozen chicken, and he brings it back to the kitchen. He cooks it, prepares it, sends it back to the front desk, and then the front desk gives it to you. Now take a look at this. These are the three main sections of a takeaway. And if you think about it, it's also the three main sections of a mobile app or a web application. At the front, you got the user interface, the part where the customer interfaces with the store, with the takeout store. All right? And then you've got the back end where the cooking is actually taking place, where you are not allowed to go. No customers are allowed to go into the kitchen. And finally, you got the storage area, which is the freezer, the grocery shelves, whatever. I mean, wherever the ingredients are stored. And there is a clear line of separation between these. And what's great about this, and I'm now talking specifically about a takeout joint like a KFC, is that when they decide that they want to change the overall look of the takeaway, the overall look and feel when you enter, they don't have to change the whole place. They only change the front area, the area that you as a customer goes and sees. And then every couple of years, you notice that your favorite takeout joint is completely changed. Well, that's just the front. They may change the furniture, they may change the menus, they may change the colors, but the back end remains the same. It doesn't affect the back end because there's a clear line of separation. Or if they decide, let's upgrade our kitchen. So they can simply upgrade the kitchen without interfering with what's going on in the front. So you as a customer, you come in as normal, you place your order, the order is given through, things are happening in the back, there's construction taking place, you don't care because you're getting your order. And finally, there's the storage area. I mean, if that freezer packs up, then they can always go and buy another freezer and plug it in. Does it matter to you? It doesn't. You don't care because as long as you're getting what you ordered. So you can see there's a clear separation of the three main sections of your takeout joint. Now, let's take this in terms of a mobile or a web application. Now, take a look at this, all right? That arrow is actually not supposed to be there, not just yet. Now, when you look at an application, let's take Facebook, for example, all right? Now, whether you're on a computer screen or on a mobile screen, the process is almost identical. So let's say you log into Facebook on your computer. Your computer now is the front end. It's the view. It's the part that you actually interface with in your application. So you put in your username and password, and that information is sent to the back end. In the back end, there's the Facebook application that's running. That's the part that's on the server that you don't see. You can't see what's happening on the server. So your request to log in with your username and password is sent to the controller. The controller looks at this, the application in the back. It looks at this and it says, well, okay, here's a user with username X and password Y. For example, username Bond, password 007, wants to try and log in. Okay, fine. Where are all the users stored? So the application goes to the storage area, and the storage area is your database. Now everything is stored in the database. All the user information is stored in the database. In fact, any data that Facebook stores is stored in its databases. So whether it's your user details, your profile information, your posts, your pages, your images, everything is stored in Facebook's database. So now this request is sent to the database. Now the database will do a search. It'll look for user Bond, password 007. So it goes through the whole list, and then once it finds that, it sends a message back to the application, to the Facebook app. It says, well, I found this user, and here's the user's profile information. The front end or the controller now sends that information back to the front end, whether you're coming from a computer or a mobile device. And then it allows you to log in. And when you log in, immediately you're seeing all your profile information. So now, when you look at just about any mobile application, not just Facebook, not just your social media, even if it's your bank application, if it's your Gmail or any other email client that you have, they all work in pretty much the same way. Model, view, controller. All right, so MVC, model, view, controller. Except that if you ask me, it should have been called VCM because that's the order, view, controller, model. But for whatever reason, they called it model, view, controller. Nonetheless, now when you look at the view is the front end. Now, those of you that are studying HTML, CSS, and going into JavaScript, you are on the view level. You're still on the left side of the screen. You are still studying the view. Now, why are we putting so much of emphasis on the view? The view is one of the most important aspects of any application. Remember that. because the view entails the user interface. You can have the most amazing app and the most amazing data storage mechanisms in the back end, but if your app is not user friendly, people are not going to use it. People are not going to like it, and they're not going to use it. And your app is not going to get widespread adoption. If you think about your own experiences using apps and websites, if you go to a website and it's hard to navigate, it's hard to find menu items, you don't find what you're looking for, are you going to go back there? No, you're not. You're just going to move on from there and find something that's easier to use. It's the same with mobile apps. So it's important to master the view aspects, which is not to say that you're not going to learn the back-end stuff. Now, the back-end stuff with the controller and the model, you're going to get to that shortly. Once you're done with JavaScript, you're going to get into the controller. And the language we're going to develop our controller in is called PHP. You're going to get into PHP shortly. And that PHP controller, the app in the background, is going to talk to a database, a MySQL database, and that's your model. And by the time you're finished with Appsopreneur, you will have created a fully fledged application that is been built on the MVC framework. So you've got your view, you're going to build this beautiful front end that talks to a powerful controller that talks to a well-designed database in the background. And there'll be a back and forth flow of information between these three layers of your app. Now, here's the question. Why? Why do we use the MVC framework to develop an application? I think the answer is pretty straightforward at this point. Let's say you've got this fantastic app, and after a couple of years, you want to change the overall look and feel of it. You want to upgrade it. You want to make it look better. You want to change colors. You want to change the overall look and feel. Now, with the MVC framework, you can change the view. You can change the whole look and feel of your website or your app fairly easily without affecting what's going on in the back end, because there's a clear line of separation. The view is not directly connected to the controller. They talk to each other via what we call APIs, application programming interfaces. So it's like every time the view needs something, it sends a message to the controller. Swap out the view. Take out a website, put a mobile app. Take out the mobile app, put another mobile app. Change the overall look and feel. Change the CSS, change the HTML, change the JavaScript. And that's not going to affect your controller. In the same way, when you are working on the controller, it doesn't mean that you have to interfere with the view or the model. Those remain intact. Those stay exactly as they are without having any impact on either the users or the data. You're just upgrading your controller. And finally, the model. The model almost never changes. That's just the thing about databases. When you are designing an application, it makes sense to design your database thoroughly, because databases are not things which you can suddenly decide down the line, I'm going to change this or that. You could run into serious problems. You could lose your data. So we're going to learn database design and development shortly, and we're going to learn how to create very effective data structures in your databases so that you most likely won't need to change your database down the line. So friends, this has been the Model View Controller framework, and I'm sure by now you understand much better what it is and what its benefits are. The main benefit, remember, is the separation of concerns, is the separation of the layers of your application. There's 3 layers and you need to keep them separate. Good design means that they are separate. You never ever want controller aspects sitting in the front end or the front end aspects tied into your controller. And you never want your controller to save and store data. Data is always stored in your database. So whether you're going the web route or you're going the mobile route, remember, it's MVC. And if you're ever struggling to understand the MVC framework, remember this analogy of your takeout joint. So the next time you go to a takeout joint to order pizza or chicken or whatever, just remember this. Look at the front end. Look how it's designed. It's designed to please you as the customer. It's designed to give you a good experience. The colors are beautiful. They speak to the company's corporate colors. They speak to your preferences as a customer. It has a helpful menu and it has smiling staff. In the background, they've got the kitchen where everything is getting done, and then they got the storage section where your raw materials or your ingredients are stored. So the model view controller model is not that different. It has a similar structure to that kitchen. So now let's take your questions. We already have a question from Ahmed Patel. Your question is, where is the controller created? Not sure I understand the question, but okay, let's take it from the top. Now, when you start coding PHP or any controller type language, and there's lots of languages. I mean, there's Java and there's the .NET framework. So there's lots of languages. You will create your controller on your PC, on your computer, and then you'll deploy it or upload it to the server. Simple as that. I'm not sure if you understood the question, Ahmed. In the same way, pretty much everything is designed on your local computer, the model view and the controller. And once you've developed them and tested them, then you will deploy to your server. So Mario's got a question. Okay, good question, Mario. Is Common Gateway Interface part of the controller because its function is in the back end and it never interferes with the view of the user? Mario, you are on the head. CGI, Common Gateway Interface, was the old name for the controller. And PHP is known as a CGI language. Any language that lives on the server and controls that flow of data between the front end and the model, between the front end and the database, is a CGI type language. Awesome question, Mario. Christopher, is there any major difference between traditional database storage and cloud-based database? Christopher, short answer, no. There is no difference except where they sit. A traditional database will probably sit on a local machine, and a web-based database will sit on the web. But for all intents and purposes, they are almost identical. The language, the SQL language is the same. The way you create those databases is the same. The way that your controller application communicates with the database is also the same. So there's no actual difference between them. So Ahmed Patel, so the controller is basically functioning code. Yeah, the controller is functioning code. It's code that sits in the back end and does all the heavy lifting. Remember, there's no heavy lifting done in your browser. The JavaScript that you are learning currently, the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, are almost entirely view related. They are there to make the user experience more pleasant, but they don't do any heavy lifting. All the heavy lifting is deferred to the controller. So the controller is basically the function of your entire application. It's the heart and soul of your application. Think of the view as the pretty face and the model as the place where the information is stored. But the heart and soul that controls everything in between is your controller. Okay, cool. 2 thumbs up from Ahmed. So that shows that your question is answered. Any more questions, guys? I see there's 6 concurrent viewers, but only 3 people are asking questions. Who's the other people that are out there? Who are these mysterious viewers that are watching our webinar and not identifying themselves? Any more questions, guys? Give me a thumbs up if you understand the MVC framework a little better now. Okay, okay, I got a question from Mario again. Thanks, Mr. Bilal. For the controller part of things, would it be safe to say that the controller enables the development team to never go astray from the object-oriented models? It helps structuring. Okay, good question, Mario. But you are opening up a completely different discussion. And in fact, you've given me a topic for the next webinar, which is object-oriented programming. Now, OOP, object-oriented programming, is is a programming paradigm that you would use to create your controller application. Now, you have a choice. With a language like PHP, you can choose to go object-oriented or not, because PHP is not a strictly object-oriented language. So it's a decision that you can make. On the Java side, on the other hand, for example, Java is strictly object-oriented. I mean, you cannot write a single line of code in Java without utilizing object-oriented programming. And I love that because whether you're writing a small application or a big application, in other words, whether you're making this little tree house or you're building a skyscraper, my strong recommendation, Mario, is that you always stick to MVC. To object-oriented programming and use the MVC framework for your controller. But let's do this, Mario. As much as I'm tempted, let's not get into the details of object-oriented programming. Let's leave that for a future discussion. It's really quite an interesting topic. I love the whole topic of object-oriented programming because I love the language Java so much. So I think let's leave that for some other time. And yes, to answer your question, it does help with structuring. It keeps your code sane. It keeps your code well structured and well designed so that you don't start tripping all over yourself. And if perchance you move on from the company and you go on to another company and a new development team comes in, then they can simply pick up from there because your code is properly structured using object-oriented programming. One more question from Ahmed Patel. Are we going to learn search engine optimization? Yes, we're going to touch on it. We're not going to delve too deeply into it. Search engine optimization is a huge topic on its own. But I'll tell you this much. We're going to launch the WordPress course, and you're going to learn search engine optimization within the context of WordPress. And WordPress is already highly optimized for search engines. So yeah, in a way, you're going to learn search engine optimization through WordPress, but we're also going to touch on the theory behind some of the theory behind search engine optimization. So yeah, cool. Actually, that might be a really good topic for another webinar. All right, cool. We're getting a smiley face from Mario. Awesome stuff. Okay, guys, so this has been one of my favorite topics because when we're getting into the really technical stuff, that's my favorite because I'm technical myself and I'm a software engineer, and you start me off on a topic and I just love that. I love to talk about it. In fact, this morning I was having a discussion on Instagram with a couple of guys who commented, and this discussion, maybe we could bring this up in another webinar, but it's something for you to think about, and that is, why are array indexes always at 0? Why do they start at 0? If you don't know what an array is, what an array index, not to worry too much. You're going to do arrays under PHP, but array indexes start at 0. Why is it the case? So I just jumped into that discussion, and I love those kinds of discussions. As always, remember my words of advice here. Keep yourself up to date. Always race. Read, anticipate, create, execute. Keep reading, keep learning, keep anticipating problems and opportunities. In other words, look for opportunities all around you. You're a developer now, you're a coder, you're getting valuable fourth industrial revolution skills. And then after you found opportunities, create solutions. That solution might be your big thing. It might be the next big killer app that launches you into a multi-billion-dollar business. I mean, that's what Mark Zuckerberg did, right? And today he's the CEO of Facebook. And finally, execute. Jump to action. Keep working. Don't think too much. You got development skills. Just keep developing. Guys, keep coding, coding, coding. I wish I had more time to code. Really, I really miss coding. But you guys, you have the opportunity. Anyways, I think we're going to wrap up today's webinar. Once again, it's been a really exciting topic, one of my favorite topics. And remember, always keep in touch with us via email and the chat on the learning management system, and also talk to others about IT Varsity. We have lots of bursaries available now. We're getting lots of support from the corporate world. So if you know people that want to study but don't have the funds, we got some bursaries available. Awesome stuff. Bye bye.